Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. And before I get into the topic of today's video, I want to acknowledge so many of the comments from my subscribers on my recent videos. I've showcased some very significant historic decks in recent weeks. Among them, the Eliphas Levi and the Suzanne Bernardine portion of that deck, and also the Alouette features of that deck. And I just showcased the deck, without really. I'm a tarot reader. I have a love and great respect for the art of these decks, and so I've been collecting them to look at them, because I can't just, it's less expensive for me to purchase historic decks than it is for me to fly to Europe and go through the museums and find them, right? And so that's what I do. And yes, I've read a great deal about these decks, but I also I'm not retaining a lot of information as I read. If I retained everything that I've ever read, I'd be a genius, but unfortunately I'm not. But at any rate, as I showcase some of these decks, many of my viewers are so knowledgeable, above and beyond, what I know about these decks. So I wholeheartedly encourage all of you, whenever you see any of my videos, to read the comment section, because a lot of great contributions have been made in the comment section. And also, from time to time, I have some good insights that I forgot to put in the video, and I would always encourage you to read the descriptive areas of my videos, because every now and then I say something good, or I'll link you to another video that I think you might find interesting. Okay, moving along. Today is sort of a significant day for me. Well, it's just every day is significant. But today would have been my mother's 90th birthday. And, you can't help but think of a loved one on a special day to them. I think of my mother every day, but I focus on her a little bit more on her birthday and also the day that she passed. And so I can't help but probably want to do a read on my mom. Now, the interesting thing about my mom is that my daughter and I have observed that her baby is 3. She's the second child. I have 3 grandchildren. And my mother missed being a grandmom by only 4 years. Oh, I know, it was so sad. She would have loved being a great grandmom, and it breaks my heart every day to think that she came so close to knowing that she would have had great grandbabies. But this one great grandbaby of hers in particular, if she isn't a carbon copy of my mother, not physically. I mean, my mother looked like me. She had dark hair and eyes, dark skin. This baby is blonde hair and blue-eyed, so has no physical features of my mother except puffy cheeks. But boy, if she isn't her little personality. Now, if I could visualize my mother as a baby, this baby would be in fact, when she was about 9 months old, I looked at my daughter and I said, oh my God, she's grandma. She's grandma. And it's so funny because my daughter said, she goes to preschool. She gets on a school bus, loves school. Now, my mother was 4 in kindergarten, all right? So this little peanut, she's the youngest one in her preschool. The teachers say she's the smartest one. It's just not me being prejudiced. All my grandchildren, God bless them, are blessed and very bright. But we're talking about this one because she seems to have parallels with my mom. And the bus driver and the aide on the bus said to my daughter that they call her grandmom because She's like a grandma. And we laugh because it's like, yeah, well, we think of her as grandma too, because she's so much like my mother. I mean, it's uncanny. So it's crazy. So I guess I want to ask the universe. I guess this will be a short and sweet read, I hope. I just want to ask the universe. I can't ask my mother, the essence of my mother, because if she's reincarnated, of course, who's going to answer, right? I mean, the baby is here. And I've always said this, I say this with every time I do a read on the possibility of where someone's essence is. You always have to bear in mind that the day after they pass from this realm, they could be somewhere else. And so they may not be available to answer, right? And so I always ask the universe for the information. Or I ask the universe if my mother had a message for me. Dear universe, tell me what it would have been, so that I'm not, asking the essence of my mother, because maybe my mother's passed into a new person. But anyway, I want to ask the universe. I don't know if you can ask Lenormand yes or no questions. I don't know enough about Lenormand to even know that question. But I think if I make some, because I want to use Lenormand. I mentioned when the year transitioned to the new year that I wanted to, one of my little New Year's resolutions, although it's not a New Year's resolution, was to use Lenormand from time to time, because I like how direct it is. I understand that, unlike tarot, where we can really get into, and, I like with Lenormand that it's really direct. Like, the ship is always the ship, that kind of thing. So, I don't know. I'm going to ask the universe if there's something to our suspicion that my second granddaughter might not be a reincarnation of my mother. I look at the little girl and I see my mother, not physically, but just she's so much like my mother. It's kind of strange. Now, of course, everything's genetic, right? So maybe she got her lion's share of genetic predisposition from my mom. She could have inherited that, and she could just have a lot of my mother's idiosyncrasies and my mother's tendencies, and she's genetically inherited more influences from my mom. And she doesn't have to have been reincarnated. But in a way, if you have the lion's share of genetic stuff from one grandparent or one relative, in a way, you do contain their essence. Anyway, just for fun, on what would have been my mother's 90th birthday, Mom, we're thinking about you. And we think about you every day, because aside from the fact when I look in the mirror, I see you. I look in the mirror and I am my mother. I mean, nobody else sees it but me. But from the day my mother died, the second I looked in the mirror after she died, it was like, oh my God, I look just like her. Nobody else sees it, but I do. And I also see her little personality in my granddaughter. And it just, it makes me happy to see her presence. And I'm just going to ask the cards if they can give me some insight. And for those, and most of you, all of you, know more about Lenormand than I do. Okay, so this will be a case where definitely read the comment section, because the people who will comment totally know more about Lenormand than I do. I'm learning. Okay, and I'm not going to do too many of these Lenormand. From time to time, I'm going to do Lenormand because I want to learn, and I think I have some capable individuals who subscribe to my channel. If it's possible to get a yes or no answer to the question, is there something to the reincarnation of my granddaughter? excuse me, the reincarnation of my mother and my granddaughter. I would like the universe to give me a nod if it's a yes, or a no. Maybe it's she's just got her lion's share of my mother's DNA. Let me go into my meditative place because I want a sincere response, understanding. Alrighty. Oops. Let me give it a really good shuffle. And to do this read, I'm using the Bluebird Lenormand because it's like a Lenormand with training wheels, and I definitely need training wheels, and I also think it's pretty. All right, we have clover. Flowers surround in clover leaf, mean happiness surrounded over grief. Wow. Bits of luck and fortune await. You have the potential to make life great. Now, isn't that an uncanny poem to read in the context of the question? Happiness surrounded over grief. So the joy of this child over the grief of having lost my mother. And the gentleman, this principal card shows a man tried and true, held high in regard. He tells fortunes for you. And upon your behest, if the cards are well read, the worst and the best, the cards. If the cards are read well, did I say that? The worst and the best, the cards will foretell. Okay, well, we have the heart. Now, I don't know. Now, with Lenormand, they obviously have a major focus on the playing cards. But I don't know if the playing cards really mean anything. I mean, could you forego the playing card reference and just have the image? I know some some Lenormand decks don't have these. So with the gentleman, I'm not understanding what the gentleman means, but I understand the heart, and I understand the positivity of this card. And this is upon your behest, if the cards are read well, the worst and the best, the cards will foretell. Well, he's looking over here. But see, I'm looking at this like a tarot reader. I don't know if I'm supposed to be looking at the direction that the gentleman's looking, because I don't think Lenormand is that way, but I can't help myself. Flowers surrounded in clover leaf mean happiness surmounted over grief. Bits of luck and fortune await. You have the potential to make life great. I'd have no idea. I have no idea. I think I might have to turn to tarot for this. I really do, because I have no idea what these cards are telling me. So let me pull a tarot deck. Okay, for this, I've decided to use the Connolly Tarot Deck because this was the one deck I had with me while I was taking care of my mother. There was another deck that also has a connection to my mother because I created a tarot deck. I created a card to belong to a tarot deck that was done communally by a group of people, and she saw that one, and there was a card in that deck that was dedicated to her, and it probably would have been a better deck to use, but for some reason, I've been called to use the Connolly Tarot instead of that deck. So I'm hoping that by pulling 3 cards, I'll get a tarot answer that I understand about whether or not my mother has come back in the form of my eldest grandchild. The Page of Pentacles. That's very interesting. A child, learned, smart, set on a good trajectory. Wow, the Wheel of Fortune. Oh man, possibility of reincarnation. A child. And now remember, I'm reading this in the context of the question. So the wheel suggests the possibility of reincarnation with a child, right? Now, which way is this wheel turning? It looks like it's going this way. The star. Oh, come on. Yes. And that's what I'm seeing. A child, possibly reincarnated. And the star. Eternity. Hope. So we have 17 and 10. I can't mess that up in my head. That's 27. Minus 22 is 5. So that would bring us the Pope. Or here it would be. Oh, look at that. How convenient. Now, I'm not sure what the Hierophant is telling us regarding the quint of this. I think these cards answer much more succinctly, although this could, in the context of the question, could suggest a blessing, acknowledgement. You know, it just, yeah, wow. I wouldn't be a bit, wow. I'm getting the feel from these cards that the suggestion here is that a child who's reincarnated, you know, I'm not sure what the star is suggesting, but the Wheel of Fortune suggests reincarnation, the child card. That would, if I had to describe my mother as a child, this would be the card. And then this is like eternity or things of the universe, you know, mysteries of the universe, the best things of the universe, and perhaps sanctioned by the powers that be in the universe. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but that's what I'm thinking. So happy 90th birthday, Mommy. And you would have loved all 3 of your grandchildren. And I'll make sure they all know about you. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, and be kind.